falsies, false lashes, fake eyelashes, lashes, whatever you want to call them. There's sort of a love-hate relationship. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you love the way they look? Hate trying to apply them? I am here today to give you my tips and tricks if you are new to lashes or just really trying to up your game in applying them. If we haven't met, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on my channel I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. But today we are about to lash out. I'm going to show you two different ways that are really more of a beginner way to start wearing false lashes. I have been wearing and applying false lashes for a very long time. Now, I don't really wear false lashes on the regular anymore. There are certain times where I think that they are very suitable, very appropriate. It's just not something that I choose to take the time to do most of the time. But I do think that they look gorgeous when you do it and you do it right. So recently on Instagram, I had posted a question kind of asking all of you what you could use some help with. Is there something that you would like a little assistance with? Whether it's a color of eyeshadow you want to wear, but you feel a little less than confident applying, whether it's a product, anything like that. And false lashes was one of the ones that I got from several people. So I wanted to just sit down and show you two ways to sort of like nudge into the world of wearing false lashes. So I'll give you all my tips and tricks along the way, and you'll get to see on each eye like two different looks, right? Well, on each eye, a different look. You know what I'm saying? Side by side comparison, right? So I've got my lash bag right here. She's jingling and jangling. This is my cute Wonder Woman bag. I think I just picked this up at Walgreens, but I do really love it. And I think it's appropriate. Like Wonder Woman is super powerful and a good lash look makes me feel powerful. So I'm just gonna give you guys a little sneak peek at what we're gonna be doing today. Now, I know I've talked lashes on my channel here before. Today we are gonna be applying your standard like adhesive style lashes. I know that this is really the most common. It's also the most inexpensive way to get started. And I think for a beginner, that's perfect. So we're gonna be working with some individual like little bundle lashes. So I'm gonna show you these here. These are the Ardell. Honestly, I think Ardell and Kiss brand are some of the better, I guess I would say like drugstore options. So this is a set of the flare lashes, and then these are also the knotted flare trio. So a couple styles we have here to work with. And then we're also going to be doing a full lash strip, and I'm going to show you guys a little cheat. It's actually the way that I started out. So I think I'm just going to take these Ardells. These are the 813s. I've got this like big pack. I have stashes and stashes of lashes. So I think we'll just do those ones today. The other thing that you can always start with is something that's a little bit smaller, like a 2/3 lash. So this is another option as well, but I am going to show you how I first started out putting on a full strip lash, and we'll also do some of the individuals as well, so you guys can see, again, side by side, how they look. I'll go through all of my tips and tricks, and hopefully this will help you out if you are new to lashes or just looking to pick up a trick or two. All right, let's start out with our individual lashes. Now, I think individual lashes can be great for several reasons. They can be really good just to add some accent to the outer corners. You can use them to almost like add definition by spacing them out a little bit more. You can do as little or as much as you want. I also think if you have a eye shape that you feel like you struggle just getting a full band on your lash, it's nice because you are placing these individually along your eye shape, so there's less struggle with getting the inner and outer corner to stay down. So just again, I wanted to show you, I have these single flares. So we have some of the shorts and the mediums here. And then I also have the trios. So this is gonna give you a little bit more impact. There we go. This is gonna give you a little bit more impact, but since these are a little bit wider, I feel like there are pros and cons to that. You can place them down almost a little bit easier because there's more surface area to work with, but it also means you have to be a little bit more exact in like lining them up right, if that makes sense. So I think what I'm gonna do is I will show you guys both. I'm going to use these medium black trios on the outer corner, and then I'll work in and we'll add a couple of the short lash. Now I do have to say, because I've been very religious with using my Latisse, I do feel like my lashes have gotten pretty long, but I tried to just go somewhat sparingly with the mascara today so that you guys can see the finished effect. By the way, if you were curious about what's on my eyes, I went ahead with the Anastasia Prism palette. This is one of my picks from my top 10 spring palette. So this is one of my KBR spring looks. For all the details on that, make sure you check out that video, and you can head over to Instagram as I'm creating all of the final looks. Now, let's go ahead and get into this. So adhesive. This is something you're gonna need, obviously, and I have one favorite and I don't see myself ever going back, and that is the House of Lashes Brush On Adhesive. I like this for several reasons. Number one, it's very easy and clean to apply. I don't like tubes because I find that they get a little bit messy if you're trying to use it without like putting it on a pan or like a palette first and then dipping the lash into it. You can just like get like blobs that come out and it creates a mess. So this tip is very nice to be able to use, and you can get as little or as much adhesive as you want. I also like that this truly does dry clear. They also have a black version if you prefer something like that. Now, I did not put on any liner onto my lashes, just so that you guys can see the full effect. But of course you could always start off with a liner. But for today, I went linerless so that you guys can see these lashes. All right, so what you will need is a pair of tweezers, a good pair of tweezers. They don't have to be crazy expensive though. I honestly usually prefer to use something a little less expensive just in case adhesive gets on them. Now, it's important that you keep your tweezers clean, not only for like eye safety, but also because you don't want these like sticking to the lash and then like not being able to get it off when you are trying to pull it away from your eye. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I always like to start from the outside in. That way I can sort of space out as I'm working in, just to really make sure that I'm not gonna end up with like a weird gap at all, because I can always stop early, but I don't really wanna stop early this way, if it makes any sense to you. Wow, I'm already getting a little bit rambly, but like I said, we're gonna start with the knotted flare trios. So you wanna make sure to take your tweezers and just really get very close to that root, if you will, so that you're not like yanking these in any way. So I'm gonna take this House of Lashes adhesive, and for this, I'm just going to brush this right onto the edge. Now, you don't need a lot. I'm gonna show you guys how much I have here. Hopefully you will see that. So you really need just the tiniest amount. And I usually do wait just a moment to let the glue get a little bit tacky. This House of Lashes dries much faster than like, let's say the Duo glue. So I am just going to place this right along my lash line. So I don't want it too much into my actual lashes. You want it to be like right where your lid meets your lashes. And I place it and then just almost like push it into my skin a little bit so that that can, you know, like adhere. And you do want to almost come in at a bit of an angle. If you come in straight, you're gonna have much straighter lashes, especially because these singles, I don't really like to curl them once they're glued on. I just feel like it disrupts the glue a little bit. So again, like coming in at that angle, you want to come in at the angle you want them to be curled at, if that makes sense. So I do always, when working with individuals, I do curl my lashes just to make sure that everything is kind of like curved. Sometimes, depending on the lash style, I don't curl my lashes for a strip lash because I feel like sometimes that curl of my lash makes it harder to get the false lash on. I'm jumping ahead, but just to say, like, I always curl my lashes when I'm working with individuals. So I don't know if you guys will be able to see this when I'm editing. This lens can only get so close, so I'll try to like crop in a little bit more so that you guys can see this up nice and close. But in all honesty, you could just do a couple of these little trios of lashes and have that more like cat eye or just a little bit more density towards the outside of your lash. So again, just dropping this in at a bit of an angle right next to that first trio I put in. And then I just, again, use the tweezer to like give a bit of pressure up against my skin so that I know that that has adhered. Now, I feel like I can already tell a difference. I feel like one more set, like going from like a medium to a short, I could just have that like extra oomph at the outside and that would be more than enough for a lot of looks and still look very natural. It would honestly just make your lashes look like extra vavoomy, but not make it look like you're wearing lashes at all. So if that's an effect that you're going for, that would definitely be something that you could do. So I am going to continue on and then I will stop where we're gonna put on the short ones. Okay, I just added two more, I guess I would say like sets, two of the trios. And now I feel like I'm gonna feel good about just transitioning to short, especially since I think personally for myself, because I don't have a lot of lash in here naturally. For this, I want to keep these not too long so that when I transition, because I don't like putting individuals, well, I don't really like putting any lashes like really, really far into my corner. So I just want to like taper off into my natural lash so that it looks very soft and undetectable. So I think we'll probably end up just doing 2 or maybe 3 of these individuals. So these were the mediums. So now I'm going to transition into the short individuals. This is really just to help add some density. And if you have like an area for whatever reason, whether they just don't grow very thick right there, or whether you yanked a few out with a lash curler, we've all been there, this is a great way to fill in gaps as well. So we're just, again, gonna take these tweezers. Now, I will be honest, normally, especially when I'm applying like a strip lash, I do not use tweezers, but I think that just being able to back up away from your area that you're working on, you can see a little bit better, because sometimes your hand can sort of like get in the way of being able to see your lashes. So that is what I would recommend with these. So I'm just gonna, again, go right up next to where I put that trio. I'm glad that that just happened, because it gives me another thing to talk to you guys about. So make sure that the tweezers aren't too close to the base of the lash, because these lashes do have a small amount of like tacky substance on them to adhere them to the plastic, right? So if your tweezers get too close to that and squeeze down on that, they get stuck to the tweezer. So again, just make sure that you hold it a little bit further away. So if that means you have to pull it off, like I said, a little bit closer to the root, but then you can just reposition this and hold the lash closer out to the end so that you don't end up having that happen like I just did. Now, these can be a little bit trickier just because they can sort of, for lack of a better word, like rock a little bit. So the lash, obviously you want it to, you know, it's a fan like this, right? So sometimes they can tip one way or the other. So that is one reason I like the flare trios, is because you just have a little bit more surface area, and they don't usually do that. But these are nice as you work in to be able to get a couple popped like in a little bit more, I guess I would say, precisely. All right, I'm gonna do one more. And I am purposely going to place this one in a spot where I seem to have like, it's not even like a gap in my lashes. It's almost like a colic. Like those lashes just always separate, and it's really annoying. So I'm just making sure to like kind of fill in that gap a little bit. I am very happy with that look. Now, there is a slight jump in length from the medium to the short. So if I was really being picky, I could trim a little bit of this short one off very, very carefully with a lash scissor without actually trimming your actual lash, but it doesn't really bother me. It's like minute. Now, what you can do, we've all seen these like little dealy boppers. This isn't even a great one. I think I got this like free in some kit, but a lash applicator that's meant more for strip lashes. What you could do now is take the individual lashes and your lashes and press them together to, you know, kind of go through and like marry them a bit more. Like I said before, I don't tend to usually do that. And if I do, I wait until the lash glue is like pretty much dry, because I just feel like once you use tension and you're moving that around, you don't have much surface area that is glued down. So I just usually wait. I usually don't do it at all. I just try to address each lash as I go. So it is certainly, again, something that you could do. Just make sure the glue is mostly dry. So again, you're just gonna take, I'm not gonna do it because this is still wet, but you're just gonna take that and very, very close to the lash line, just give it a nice squeeze, and then it'll marry those two together. But I do think that that looks really nice. And these, I mean, really, they do look very natural. They're nice and fluttery and fluffy. These aren't gonna be like super oomphy, dense, like rakes on your face. And if that's your aesthetic and you want that, that's great. Obviously, if that is your aesthetic, you've worked your way up there probably, because those are definitely heavier lashes with a much thicker band. But this is a great way to be soft and, you know, get started. So hopefully you guys can see the difference with that. And now we will move on to applying the full lash. Okay, so I took one of the 813 lash from Ardell. So I'm gonna stick this onto my hand so that you guys can see it nice and close. So you can see here, this is one that has that very transparent band. So there are pros and cons to that. The pro is going to be that it is incredibly flexible, and easier to apply and have look more natural, because even if there is a bit of a gap between your lash and the artificial lash, it doesn't show up quite as much. You can sometimes in certain lashes see the knotted look though, so sometimes it's good to go through with just like a very, very, very thin line of liner to disguise that, which you could do whether it's with like a black strip lash or with one of these. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. I apologize because like some of these have been worn before, so don't judge, but you can see how this has a much more like black band. It's a little bit thicker band, whereas this has that very clear, like it's almost like just the bit of adhesive. So that is something that I sometimes will choose to go over after I've applied my lash and then just like dab some liquid liner there, but not a have to do. I don't think we'll have to in this situation. So what we're actually going to be doing with this lash, like I said, you can put on like the little demi 2/3 lash. What we're actually going to be doing with this is making this into a demi lash, but applying it as a full lash. So I'm actually going to cut this lash into thirds. And the reason for this is, again, this is definitely more of like an intro to lashes technique, but it is going to be much easier for me to control a third of this lash at a time because I can place it exactly where it needs to be on the curvature of my eye. I don't have to struggle with like, while I'm trying to get this corner to lay down, having glue from this corner hit my lid, get all over my eyeshadow. It's a little bit more like contained and controlled. Now, I've had people say, well, why don't you just go through and snip it into two? But if you do it two, that middle seam is going to be like right at the middle of your eye. And if you don't do it exactly perfect, if it's halfway in your eye, you just see it more. So doing it in thirds kind of like segments it so that flaws are disguised a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to take my lash scissors, if I can find them wherever they went. Okay, so we're going to take the lash scissors and I'm just going to snip these into thirds. Now, first, I just want to make sure that this whole lash is going to fit on my eye. So without any adhesive or anything on, I'm just going to pop this on and take a peek to see, does it fit my eye? And obviously this isn't going to be perfect because, you know, we don't have adhesive on here, so it's not going to stay. I just want to make sure that it isn't going to be too long, because what happens then is one of two things. You either have to try to take it in too far and then it looks unnatural and will bug you the entire day because it's going to poke you in the eyeball, or you end up dragging it down and your lash goes like this, so your whole eye droops down and then your face looks droopy. So we don't want that. If that is the case, what you want to do, if it is too long, make sure to just cut off like by the clump. So I would take off one or two of these individual like flares, if you will, and then just snip that off from the outside. I do it from the outside because, especially if you have a tapered lash, those inner short lashes are what makes it blend in with your natural lash, but it also is more comfortable to not have a sharp pokey point on the inside of your lash. So I'm just gonna take my little lash scissors, rose gold of course, and cut this about 1/3 of the way in. So I wanna make sure that I'm not actually cutting the lashes, I'm just cutting the band in between those knots, if you will. Now, obviously, since we are cutting these lashes, I really recommend using a less expensive pair. The nice thing is, you know, really, I mean, the drugstore has some great lashes now. So you can definitely get a beautiful set of lashes. Like I said, Ardell, Kiss, they both have great, fairly inexpensive lashes. And, you know, places like Ulta have sales all the time on them. So you can get a great pair of lashes at an inexpensive price. And I do think that you could rewear these a few times. Just have to be delicate in the way that you take them off, which we'll be talking about at the end of this video. But it's definitely something that you could reuse. So again, I'm gonna start on the outside. So just applying some of the lash glue. And this time we're gonna be applying it really just in the same way as we did the individual flares, but just with a bigger set, because this has like 5 knots on this one. So again, I normally at this point would just go through with my fingers, but I think it's going to be easier for you guys to maybe see if I don't do that. So again, coming in tipped sort of up and docking that at the outer part of my lash. Now these are quite a bit shorter than these flares here, but really I was just wanting to show you guys the method. So this is going to give me a lot more density, but not necessarily length. So I can actually even see just where I put that like outer third, it just got really nice and dense. So guess what? Repeat. All right, we have our second segment, and I'm just going to land this right next to the segment I put on before. All right, I'm actually just gonna like adjust this with my finger. Like I said, I don't tend to use a tweezer. I just find that my fingers are a little bit easier to use. So I just sort of like pushed that down and into place. All right, so this lash, you can see now, because this is a more rounded lash style, you can see that that gave me a lot more length at the middle of my lash. So I like wearing something like this shape when I'm doing like a halo eye or something that has a more rounded shape, just because it matches the shape of the shadow. Now again, don't forget to let your adhesive dry for a moment, like at least 60 seconds, I would say, on your lash before you go through and add it, because that's gonna be what makes it like stick to the skin a little bit more, because if it's too like wet and still liquidy, it won't actually grab onto the skin. So it's probably just gonna come right back off with your tweezer or your finger. So there we have our finished strip lash done in 3 parts. And I'll be honest, you guys probably won't be able to see it, but this is not flawless because I was trying not to get like too close up with my mirror to be able to see, but these 2 pieces here are actually slightly overlapped. I crossed over with the middle one after I put on the first one, but you can't even see it. It wasn't until I like tipped my head down, which is normally what I would do, is so that I could see, is like tip my head down and then get my mirror up nice and close and bring the lash in like this. But if I did that, you guys wouldn't have seen anything. So it is like not perfect, but you can't, I don't think you can't tell that. So I really love this method as well. Again, it's certainly, you know, not a have to, but I think that if you have really been struggling with applying a strip lash, this is a great way to go. You still get a strip lash. It's just a little more easy to control. Now, if you do decide to go in with a full lash, that's great. What I would do is, if you've really struggled, try this. And once you get used to that and you feel really comfortable with it, then you can graduate onto using the full strip lash. Okay, so I'm gonna take this other one off here. Now, what I find a lot of times with less expensive lashes, and in all honesty, sometimes it just happens when you're pulling the lash off. They tend to straighten out a little bit and they don't have a lot of curve to them. So my eyes have quite a bit of curve this way, especially on the inner corner. So I really need to make sure to have a bit of that curvature. When you have a strip lash that you've worn a few times, usually it sort of like forms to your eyelid, just like your favorite pair of jeans forms to your butt after a while. You know what I'm saying? But until then, it's really good to take the lash, and before you apply it, just give it a wrap around your finger. And because there's that little bit of like tackiness that it applies to the like plastic with, this I would just go through and I would honestly put my lashes on here and then like apply my mascara, let my mascara completely dry, and then it will be time to take this off. And so it will have a bit of curvature to it. So that's just one tip. If you are using a lash that seems to be a little bit more straight, this will help give it a little bit of form until it just naturally forms after wearing it a couple times. The other thing is sometimes you can get a lash band that is just super, super stiff. And all you really want to do for that, this isn't going to happen with this one, is just to make sure to give it a good little roll. Like just give it the band a little bit of back and forth. You probably don't want to break it in too much because that's what makes lashes like last longer, is that integrity of that band, but just to soften it up a bit can really help. So those are a couple tips of once you start to get into applying a full lash. Okay, so I just filmed the end of this video and I decided that it might be helpful to show you guys covering up the little bit of like band here, because I can see the clear band, if you will, especially since this one was like slightly imperfect as I applied it. No worries, this is real life, right? This is what happens. So I thought I would show you how I go about disguising that. So I am gonna start out by using a liquid liner. I would suggest either using a liquid liner or a cream gel pot. We're gonna start out with this one. If we have to move to a gel, that's fine, but I'm gonna go through with the KVD tattoo liner in Mad Max Brown, just because this is more of like a brownish look. I don't want it to be too stark, so I want something that's brown, not black. So I'm literally just going to take this, and I'm not even necessarily looking to tint my lash line. I'm just looking to tint the clear, whatever it is, like silicone maybe. So I'm really just kind of like running over those clear baubles, and I probably will just do like a really thin line at my lash, but like the thinnest of thin. Again, I don't know if you guys are gonna really be able to see this, but I'm almost just like laying the pen down on its side and just drawing over that clear lash band. So now I don't see it at all. I just took a little like promo, if you will, for this video for Instagram, and I could see it in the video, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be able to see those like clear dealy boppers. So on this side, I don't really see a lot at all. And that was one of the things that I said is like kind of a bonus to this, is oftentimes it can look a little softer. So that is one thing, but obviously since I have this side lined, I'm gonna line this side now. So I just wanted to show you guys that. You will see me unlined for the rest of this video since I went through and did the end, but I wanted you guys to be able to see what it would look like if you didn't line it. I think it's still definitely possible, but this brown just looks a little bit softer. The other thing, and I know I talked about this with my other lash videos that I've done, is I sometimes like to take a little bit of liner down here just to match the density of the lash line, because I don't have lashes there. So I just tap a little bit in, and then that darkness kind of like blends all the way through. So it just depends on what you're looking for, how much you want to see, how soft and natural you want it to be, but I wanted to give you the option. So I hope you guys found these two techniques helpful. Again, I think that, you know, the individual lashes can be a really nice way to get a very natural effect, or just like that extra dimension added. The one thing that I didn't say is you could also take individuals and like gap them out a little bit. I would say if you're going to do that, make sure that you have a liner on, even if it's just the smallest amount, but to get that like more scalloped look. And I think some like falsies have that look. And so if that's something that you're looking for, you can certainly get that by just like adding a few spaced out individuals on your lash. But I do think that they're just such a nice option that you don't see used a lot. But you know, this like cutting it in thirds and applying a strip lash is a great way to get started. So you guys will have to let me know if you give this a shot. If you have any other things that I could help you with, make sure to drop it in the comments down below. I'm really enjoying doing this series, and I hope you guys find it helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a like. And if you aren't already subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing so. I really love getting to chat with you guys about makeup, give you a few tips that I hope will help you enjoy your makeup experience a little bit more. So that's gonna be it for today, lovelies. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I will see you really soon.